On Reddit has been asking about vices and vice tours, so I thought this would probably be the easiest way this morning to do that. Of course, everybody has these. This is an old school Wilton vise. I want you to kind of keep in mind that the jaw, the external jaw, the one with the nut on it, is the one that moves on this vise. This vise I use a lot for real light stuff. Filming, actually. I use it a lot for filming because I can move it around. I've got two vices in the shop for doing the videos. This one and this one. I move them, they're just easier to move around so I can get the shots the way I like. I don't really recommend having your vices movable. A much better way to have your vices set up is like this, solid. This was my first blacksmith or post vise that I got. I actually ordered it new from the company. It came from Germany about 20 years ago. 20 years ago? Yeah, about the year you were born, I think, Trey. So you can see that they hold up fairly well. It's not a real heavy vise, but man, I use it every day. You can hardly have enough vices in the shop. This is one that I salvaged out of a scrap yard here locally. The spring was gone, so I just manufactured another spring out of an old, probably a Model T or an old Chevy spring, some very old spring. That's a big vise. That vise is, I think it's got 10-inch jaws in it. Heavy vise, but you can see it's had some pretty rough wear. It needs rebuilt pretty badly. And one of these days when I get caught up and I get rich and famous, I probably will rebuild it. This is a fairly good sized vise, heavy. If you're going to mount one of these where you can move it around, you have to have a pretty good base on it. I literally made this base so I could stand on here to add my body weight when I was working on this vise. Here's another blacksmith vise that I have in the shop. This was just an old hand forged one. I don't know. Who knows what brand it is? Could be a Champion or something. I don't know. We always have so much tooling in all of these vices that we have. This is actually a knife vise mounted in the top of the blacksmith vise. These are a vise that we make to put the knife blades in when we're working on knives. This is a unique vise. So it's actually got ways in it, and it's the back jaw that actually moves into the front jaw. So this jaw is actually stationary in this vise, and this one moves the other way, which is kind of nice because when you put big stuff in there, you don't have your vise hanging way out here off of the end of the bench, which is kind of nice. So I think they were made in Poland originally, probably in the 70s. I would hate to have to buy that vise now new. I think it's probably, oh man, that would be a $500 or $600 vise, I would think, with the ways on it. So that's kind of the vise setup in here. So this is the one that most of you guys are probably the most familiar with because it's the one that I use for filming most. But if we're doing big, heavy bending, that stuff's going in this vise. This was actually the original blacksmith shop setup, this big glue lamb. I was moving around a lot, and so we set this up like this. But if you're doing big, heavy bending, this is the ones that we use. If you're buying these new, you want to try to find ones that the bushings aren't all wore out on, and that the jaws are fairly even on. Like some of these are pretty wore out, like the bushings in them are fairly wore out. You can see that this one actually isn't too bad, but sometimes they get really out of whack, and it's hard to hold stuff in them. The difference between one of these blacksmith vices like this and a machinist vise like this is when you put something in one of these blacksmith vices, because of the way they're designed, these jaws will cant And if you're holding kind of weird shaped stuff, that's kind of handy. But if you're trying to just use one side of the vise, like if you're just trying to hold something in this side of the vise, they don't really work very good unless you have something the same width in both sides of the jaws. I've never ever hit anything on this machinist vise. They're just worth so much money, and you always end up busting these bolts out and knocking these jaws out of these vices. You don't, if you can help it, you don't want to be doing any heavy pounding on a machinist vise. I've replaced the screws in this vise I don't know how many times, because at one time this was the only portable vise I had for my portable blacksmithing business, and so this is the one I used. But I've replaced the jaws in this I don't know how many times. These machine bolts get sheared off, so try not to do that. If you're going to be doing heavy pounding on stuff, that's what these were designed to do, and so that's why you want to use those. Of course, I'm sure you guys all have seen this tooling by now that I made. This is some tooling for doing small bends, like on these little, Christmas stocking hooks for doing this bend. It was done over this. A socket. The good thing about a socket or something that's open on the top like that is you can get a bending fork down in there, and for small stuff you can hold thin stuff right up against the side of the socket, and it's much more accurate, as accurate goes in blacksmithing. Anyway, if anybody else has any questions, just put it in the comments. I'll try to answer for you. You can buy these new. They are ridiculously expensive. I think I paid 20 years ago, I paid all $500 for that vise. I don't have a clue of how much they are now. And I'm sure that company is not the same company now. I'm sure it's probably a different name. I see Black Bear Forge has got a brand new one in his shop that he bought. So I know that you can buy them now. But if you have any questions, you know what to do. Like and subscribe, everybody, please. Appreciate it.